Should you pivot or not? In this YouTube video, I'm going to walk through 3 questions that every woman business owner needs to ask yourself before you pivot your niche, you change your offers, you shift your marketing strategy. Hey, and welcome to the video. I'm Eleanor Beaton. I'm the founder of Safi Media. We are on a mission to double the number of women entrepreneurs who sustainably scale to 1 million and beyond by 2030. Today, we're going to be talking about something that is a combination of both sort of classic timeless business advice, but also something that I have really been seeing in the market lately. This has come up in a couple of conversations that I have been having recently with friends and colleagues. One was saying, God, everybody's pivoting all the time. And so I really started to kind of personally investigate what is going on here, because I have seen this also. As a business owner, you get to decide how you're going to lead your business. But what I started to notice was that some of these pivots were being done for the wrong reasons. They were being done maybe because the business owner was tired, because the business owner was impatient. It was actually the thing that the business owner wanted to pivot around. That wasn't the problem. The actual problem was a lack of leadership skills. Every business owner is going to need to adjust your strategy or make pivots in your approach. You want to make sure that you are pivoting for the right reason. When you pivot, if you do it poorly, or if you are doing it for the wrong reason, you can waste a ton of time, energy, and resources. Because you did not pivot for the right reason, you can send the entire team and all of your resources in the wrong direction so that you don't accomplish the results. You are months or years behind schedule, and you end up squandering the goodwill of your team, of your stakeholders, of your clients. In today's episode, I wanted to walk you through 3 core questions that you can ask yourself if you are like, look, what I'm doing isn't working. I need to pivot my strategy, or I need to pivot my message, or I need to pivot my offers, or I need to pivot my niche, whatever it is. Ask yourself these 3 questions, because these questions can really help you explore and make sound decisions as a leader and CEO in your company. So question number 1 is, are you pivoting because your strategy needs to change, or are you pivoting because your execution has been poor? In general, when you look at what makes something successful, it's going to be a combination of good strategy and good execution. So the strategy is like the plan, it's the roadmap, and the execution is making that roadmap real. Both are critically important. You can have good strategy and poor execution, and you can have poor strategy and good execution. But to win in business, you need both to be done well. What I will see with entrepreneurs is that they will often assume that the strategy is the problem when in fact the execution has been poor. Some time ago, we were implementing a selling system, and part of the success of the selling system required that we had a team who was really able to be effective at setting appointments. So we have this team, they're setting appointments, and the results are sort of mixed. And even over time, the results are still kind of mixed. So I'm looking at this, and at that point, I certainly felt the pull of maybe we should just abandon this sales strategy and switch to something else. But there were a number of reasons that I had really felt that this particular sales strategy was the right one for us, take us to the next level, and to really guide us through the next 2 to 3 years. And this was a combination of our brand position, of shifts that I was seeing in the market, of our ideal client, et cetera, et cetera. I don't want to abandon my strategy. So then I start taking a look at the execution. I'm like, so this could be poor execution. Do we have the capacity to do this well? Yep, we have the capacity. There's enough people here. Do we have the right training to do this well? Yeah, I would say it's like an 8 out of 10. Okay, so definitely we could improve it, but our training's pretty decent. And I know because some of the team is executing it really, really well. Do we have the right personnel in place? Ooh, I'm not sure. And most importantly, do we have the right accountability in place? I also felt that we didn't. So those were the 2 parts of the execution that I handled. One was, okay, guys, let's devise a system of accountability, and we're going to stick to the system of accountability and reporting that will be very transparent, that will be very open, and it shows us on a day-by-day basis, are we rolling out this system effectively? And then the second thing I did was ultimately decided I was going to let somebody go because a fantastic human, but they were ineffective in this role. that kind of thing is difficult for business leaders to do. It's very difficult for small business leaders to do. But what can happen is that you end up changing a really good strategy when you're not willing to do the things to take your execution from poor to excellent. Question number 2. Are you pivoting because of outside pressure or impatience versus a careful consideration of whether you're on the right track? I can remember, I think it was 2016, I was just really starting to build my coaching practice. I could see that the coaching industry was growing, and I really saw huge potential, for myself in this space, but I had yet to really find my footing. My product market fit wasn't quite there. There was a lot that I was still sort of working on. And I was at the time doing a lot of speaking. I was trying to figure out great sales and marketing systems that were going to be effective. I was doing a ton of speaking, and I can remember flying out to an event in the United Kingdom. I was away from my family. My kids were young. My husband was holding it down at home. This was not the first time he'd been doing that. I spoke at this event and I got 0 sales. And my incredible long-suffering husband was I called him and told him I was really upset. And he was just oh, Eleanor, I don't know that we can keep doing this. To be clear, this is the one time in my entire business history that he hasn't quote unquote supported me. And he was just really expressing wow, can we keep doing this? I.e. outside pressure. And I remember listening to him and thinking about it, but deciding, no, I'm going to keep with my strategy. I'm going to keep speaking. I'm going to keep getting in front of microphones. I'm going to keep getting in front of stages. I'm going to keep getting in front of people. I know in my heart, this is a really good strategy. What I need to do is make stronger offers and learn how to sell to groups of people. I did ultimately learn how to do that. And within the next year, there was a big turnaround in the business. So had I succumbed to outside pressure, I may have abandoned my strategy of speaking to groups of people because of poor execution. I still didn't really know how to make a compelling offer to a group of people at once. Do you see what I'm saying? So that's an example of succumbing to outside pressure. Now, the other side of outside pressure is your own impatience. And this is a huge thing. Sometimes I feel like I'm basically a warrior against entrepreneurial impatience. So what I mean by that is, when you think about creating strategies that are scalable and repeatable and replicatable and are ultimately going to help you multiply your business, it takes time to make those strategies work. One of the things that we teach our clients inside the Dual Business Accelerator programming is how to create, we call it the cash calendar marketing system. And so we work directly with the entrepreneur to install into her company very specific and targeted activities that are reverse engineered from her strategy, her clientele, her team, her resources, but ultimately what you need are a mix of activities. And these are brand building, nurture, lead conversion, sales conversion opportunities that are happening daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly. When you implement a cash calendar and you work that cash calendar and you create a culture and systems so that you do it first, but then your team starts to own and run that cash calendar, you're going to create a really powerful marketing machine. What will happen is that people will execute their cash calendar for a quarter and they may not get the results that they want to see. So they might have 1 or 2 poor webinars, they might have 1 or 2 poor roundtables, and they're like, this doesn't work. So they are allowing impatience to create a shift in strategy. Forget this. I'm just going to do paid media, or I'm just going to start a YouTube channel or whatever. I absolutely see that all the time. And a lot of times, this is going to require courage. You're really going to need to have courage to be patient, to allow the system that you are working to actually work. The third question, are you pivoting because of a bright, shiny object versus your conviction that your current strategy is bad? Years and years ago, I decided that I was going to really double down on YouTube. I was going to invest in YouTube. I was going to really invest in SEO for YouTube. And so I did for about a year. I had this camera crew. They would come in. I would get my hair and makeup done. I would record a bunch of videos. They would edit them. We would load them onto YouTube. And after a year, I was just like, oh, forget about it. I got tired and I switched strategy and I decided to start doing, live launches or something like that. I wanted something new. I was getting bored. Well, guess what we relaunched this year? YouTube. And guess what? Derek, who leads our YouTube strategy, quickly saw, you've got some pretty decent performing videos here. You were really on it for a while. I was like, oh my God, I know. And the only reason I pivoted was because I got bored and I wanted something new. And I sometimes like kick myself because I'm like, you should have just kept going with YouTube. You'd be one of the biggest women on YouTube now if you had just done that. But I guess that's, a bit of, cautionary tale for you. And I really keep that memory, I call on that sometimes when I want to stop doing something because I personally am getting bored. And I abandon it because of that when actually the strategy was and continues to be sound, and it's why I'm going back to it. So these are 3 different questions that you can really ask yourself that can be very helpful as you decide, okay, should I go through with this pivot or not? Because so much of it is about executing things well, I want to share with you the sort of framework that we teach our clients for scaling anything. The framework has 4 pieces. So whenever you install something new in your business, a new marketing channel, a new strategy, a new approach, a new team member, it goes like this. First, you install it, then you get consistent with it, then you improve the quality of it and the quality of its execution, and then you scale it. And what I will often see is that entrepreneurs will pivot because they're trying to go from install to scale. They are too impatient and they don't yet have the leadership acumen to understand. Only shitty leaders try to go from install to scale. And I'm using that term, shitty leader, because if you want the privilege of leading a multi-million-dollar business, you are going to need to make the decision to up-level your leadership. You just will. And there's so many people who are like, I'm just going to hold space. I'm like, no, you have this desire. You need to have someone tell you, Queen, more is required of you. You need to step up as a leader. You need to release this childish adolescent style desire to have things happen overnight. When you show up in that way, you are a nightmare to work with and for. You need to be a leader. And a leader can absolutely apply a sense of urgency, can absolutely have high expectations, but you do also have to understand timing and how you really start to create forward momentum. And you do that by first installing, then letting yourself get consistent with the thing. Then you start to take a look at quality and how you improve execution. And at that point, you take a look and you're saying, hey, is this working? Is this effective? If it is, then you scale it. If you don't, and this is often where people will get bored, like with YouTube, we were really there when I was doing this back in like 2017, and I got bored and we stopped doing it. So we didn't scale something that was working, and it was a big mistake. And I did that because I got bored, right? So you really have to understand the continuum of how you as a leader start to lead growth in your company. And again, I think it's so important as women CEOs that we have these conversations, and also that we surround ourselves with people who say, listen, my friend, you have a ton of potential, but your leadership needs to improve for you to get the results you're worthy of accomplishing. So let's work on that.